Access granted.
Digital rich, digital rich, digital. We made it rich on the internet. Stop capping. What you mean? We made it rich on the internet. What you mean? We made it rich on the internet. Whoa.
Welcome to Bulldog Blitz, RB's very own sports talk show dedicated to high school hoops and other current trending sports. I'm Liam Hickey, he's Liam Cohen, and our opinions are never wrong. We'll first start off with some IHSA basketball updates before transferring over into the college football transfer portal. Then we'll finish it off with some takes on the NFL playoffs. Liam, we got a lot to cover today, so let's get into it. What's going on with the IHSA right now?
Obviously, since that last time we talked about it, high school basketball has changed a lot. We got our top 10 here. We got Curie sitting in number 1. They had a big win, 68-49 over former top 10 Kenwood.
Kenwood, yeah. What happened to Kenwood, by the way? Kenwood, Whitney Young, and Simeon are kind of non-existent right now in this picture 2023-2024 season.
Yeah, they kind of just faded away. Everyone had high hopes for them. I mean, Slowshay was all over them, giving them some hype. I think they were top 3 at the start of the season.
Yeah, and then Simeon had somewhat of a bounce-back win against Lindblom, winning 67-44. But other than that, I mean, it's been a pretty murky season for them. Not a lot of highs. One, however, high hope for Kenwood at least is Devin Cleveland, point guard, class of 2027. He's a freshman, and he's already received an offer from the University of Illinois.
Yeah.
They get younger every year.
Yeah, it's great for him. It's crazy. It's a great achievement.
Yeah, and that came after a 20-point game against Whitney Young, so kind of a crosstown rivalry right there. That was a great game to watch. So.
Yeah, and then sitting at number 2, we got Homewood Flossmoor. They've kind of shocked everyone, but they've always been a good basketball school. It doesn't really surprise me that they're in this top 10, but sitting at 2, they're looking strong. They had a big win over DePaul, 57-46, where Bryce Hurd dropped 21 points there.
That's a huge win, and because of that, DePaul Prep now dropped down to 8th place. They were previously undefeated. Now, however, they're dropped down in the rankings, and I'm sure we could see Homewood Flossmoor skyrocket up to first here. It's a wild top 10 right here, Wild West, so anything could happen between now and later.
Yeah, if we're talking Illinois recruits, we'll head over to Thornton. They're 14-2. They've been on fire. Morris Johnson, the Illinois recruit, 18 points, 22 rebounds, 5 blocks against Thornridge. An amazing stat line. And then goes out to his next game, 17 points, 9 rebounds against a top 10 matchup where they took the win against Metamora, 63-62.
6'9" power forward, and coaches are saying he's just a great coachable player. He spreads the ball around to his teammates very well, and he's just a team player, which is exactly what you want from your star player like Morris Johnson, and that's the reason why they're 3rd right now.
Exactly.
And then talking about star players, can we talk about Angelo Chiaravino, number 4 Mount Carmel right now, rivals with Homewood Flossmoor, in fact.
Yeah.
And he's taken this team to successes they have never dreamed of, right? He's 6'6", small forward, and he's kind of just an all-around athletic player. That's how Slowshay describes him.
Yeah, he's been doing it all for them. I mean, he's kind of carried them into this top 4. And coming from the all-boys school, I mean, they've shown they're a bunch of men. They're not an all-boys school.
Yeah, maybe putting them on the map for basketball instead of football, which they used to be known for.
Exactly. And then we'll move on to Bennett here, another private school. They're sitting at number 5. They had a huge win against Viator, 67-39.
Yeah, they've always been a juggernaut. We've seen that before. And then moving on to Metamora, 13-4 right now. A lot of losses, but they've been a big team, so just Thornton, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And they won the Jack Tosh tournament, the one that Riverside Brookfield featured in over the winter break. And they have star player Cooper Kosh, 6'8", Iowa commit. He's definitely been leading them to a lot of success. Great 3-point shooter, and a lot more to come with them. They actually take on Mount Zion, who's undefeated, this Friday.
Oh, yeah, I think that's tonight.
That's tonight, yeah. So
big game for them. And, I mean, Metamora also has other players stepping up. Ben Zobrist had 25 points, Tyler Mason, 20 points in the loss to Thornton. That big top 10 matchup, they had their players playing their roles, but Thornton just came out on top.
Yeah, and then speaking of top 10 matchups, we got 7 seed versus 8 seed, Normal Community versus DePaul Prep tonight. Should be a great game. Determine who will fluctuate in the top 10 for sure. I got my money on Normal.
I do too. I mean, DePaul Prep has Jalen McIlroy, but I don't know if he could pull it together for DePaul Prep. Normal's been on fire. 8 straight W's against Champaign Central and Centennial, and then they beat Kenwood.
Yeah, a lot of big men in the paint. Love those orange unis, the Iron Men. I think they look good in them, and yeah, we'll see what happens there. Also, Wabansie Valley, undefeated right now, I think they will stay undefeated for quite a while. We'll see. They're just not getting a lot of recognition right now because of where they are, not really close to that Chicago area. However, they're killing it right now.
Yeah, outside of Chicago, they got Tyreek Coleman, had a big 18-point game in their 56-50 W against Neuqua Valley. I mean, they're on their come-up. They're undefeated so far.
Yeah.
Someone's got to end it, or they'll just keep climbing the rankings.
And then finishing off the top 10 is Quincy, who will take on 2022-23, last season's Pennsylvania State champions upcoming.
Yeah, that's going to be a great game this weekend.
It will be.
My opinion, I don't know about yours. I think Quincy's got it.
It'll be a huge test for Quincy, but we'll see. Definitely a Southern Illinois team. I don't think anyone's going to take them, but I'll take them for sure.
Yeah.
I like my Illinois boys.
Yeah, they've been a really strong team this whole season, and I think they could prove themselves with a massive game this weekend.
And then I know we touched on some of the best recruits so far in this class: Morris Johnson, Angelo Chiaravino, Cooper Kosh. I also want to talk about big man, 6'9" center, Lathan Somerville. Rutgers commit, goes to Richwoods, who featured in the top 10 earlier in the season. They've kind of dropped down right now, but never count him out. He's huge.
Yeah, they've got some big guys down there.
Yeah, he uses his body really well. And then rounding out, number 5th recruit is Jason Jaxtis, goes to Yorkville Christian. Previously had a Duke commit a couple years back, and he's a 6'10" center, so huge guy, same size as our Stefan Cicic. And I think he's really turning up right now, especially in the 1A conference that they're in. He's definitely getting a lot of points against that weaker competition.
Yeah, for sure. He's been a big star for Yorkville Christian.
And then I think we should talk about Riverside Brookfield. What about you?
I think we have to. I mean, our home school, they've been on a roll.
Yeah, 15-3 right now. Just lost to Hillcrest. However, I think they'll gain some momentum back with a win against Fenwick this weekend for sure.
Sports Illustrated actually recently had them at 17. We'll see how they change it up in this next week after the Hillcrest lost. But, I mean, big game this weekend against Fenwick.
Yeah, big game. And last thing I want to mention, just maybe a little bit of an encouraging stat. They ranked 67.1 in offensive efficiency rating across all of the Chicagoland area, which is incredibly high. And only Kankakee, Kenwood, and Warren Township have a higher rating, which means they're one of the top schools in Illinois for their offensive rating. Really, the only thing dropping them down is their strength of schedule in these spreadsheets that we're looking at. So it's really unfortunate because they cannot control that. However, they're one of the top ones in defense as well with a 50.0 rating. And it has them at, I believe, 21st in the rankings.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, they've played some good teams. I mean, they've fallen 3 games. They've seen it. But against these bad teams, they're capitalizing. And that's really all they can do.
Yeah, so we wish them the best of luck against Fenwick, taking on Nate Marshall. And speaking of Nate Marshall, we'll have something about him coming up in football right after the break. Welcome back to Bulldog Blitz. The college football season is over. Michigan won the Natty, but there's still so much to talk about in the whole wide world of the college football transfer portal. And what better way to start that than starting on the home front with Nate Marshall, Fenwick D lineman, 22nd nationally in his 2025 class, 4th best D lineman overall, and 2nd best in the state. So much to talk about here, and he made, Illinois news recently.
Oh, yeah.
Can we talk about that? Mario Cristobal, University of Miami coach, flew down in a helicopter onto the Fenwick soccer field on a snow day that was canceled for us, but Fenwick is a private school, so obviously school was still in session. And he surprised Marshall with the visit. And it was a great experience. I think that definitely might have swayed him over to Miami a little bit. Maybe he'll be playing with Justin Scott in the future. We'll see. But that just shows some of the recruiting crazy strategies that these coaches are using nowadays to get players to really commit.
Yeah, it's a great experience for Marshall, and maybe an even bigger one this weekend against the Bulldogs in basketball. But
stay tuned on that. Yeah, hopefully he doesn't, create a tearjerker for us fans.
Yeah, but let's talk about Alabama.
Let's talk about Alabama.
I mean, some notable transfers. They got Caleb Downs, Caden Proctor, and Isaiah Bond. They're losing some big guys.
Yeah, Alabama will not be the same program as it was just a year ago, now that Nick Saban has been fired. Kalen DeBoer will take his place, and he has quite the resume. I think it might have been a great coaching hire for Alabama.
I think so as well.
104-12 all time. And great story here because he went from the NIA at University of Sioux Falls, which 99% of you have probably never heard of, to Alabama. He started coaching at Eastern Michigan as well, Fresno State, went to Indiana, and that's where he brought Michael Penix from Indiana to Washington. And he went 25-3 at Washington, 12-6 at Fresno State, but here's the kicker. He went 67-3 at Sioux Falls, winning 3 NAIA national championships.
And that's a great stat line.
Yeah, but not great for Alabama, who will be losing Caleb Downs,
Yeah.
Proctor, and Isaiah Bond, like you said. I also, breaking news is that Julian Sayin, the number one 2024 quarterback in the class, is also transferring, so we'll see where he goes.
Yeah. Let's talk about Isaiah Bond and his new team, Texas. I mean, they've been landing some really good receivers. They got Trey Moore, Silas Bolden, and now Isaiah Bond.
Yeah, Silas Bolden, all Pac-12 Conference Player of the Year with Oregon State there. Trey Moore, big transfer from UTSA. A lot of people were trying to get his signature.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're building quite the wide receiver class. I'd watch out for that offense next year for sure.
Yeah, they're looking dangerous for this upcoming year.
Yeah, some other news is that Talia Tagovailoa, he was denied his 6th year of eligibility, which means he will now be declaring for the NFL draft.
Yeah, and that's going to be a good story. See where he lands. I was doing a little bit of research. A lot of people have him ranked around the 10th spot at the quarterback. So
yeah,
we'll see if he even gets selected. And maybe
I think
the
better.
rounds.
Yeah, I think it would be better for him to stay with another year. But unfortunately, we'll see if that even happens.
Yeah.
They might not let him. So tough situation for him, and he's pretty promising because he is, I think, an underclassman right now. So he is got a lot of years left. And then LSU, right? 2025 class. Can we talk about that now? They've landed Bryce Underwood, who is the top recruit overall. Number 1 quarterback, Bryce Underwood, as well as DeCorian Moore, top wide receiver in the 2025 class, coupled with Harlem Berry, number 1 running back in the class. So I'd watch out maybe in a couple years. LSU's offense is here to stay. Remember 2019 LSU? Well, we could be seeing a repeat of that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was the Jaden Daniels effect. I mean, he had a crazy season.
Yeah.
The recruiting for them is really going uphill so far.
Yeah, I mean, if I was Bryce Underwood and I'd see how the LSU staff transformed Jaden Daniels going from Arizona State to LSU, getting him a Heisman in nearly just 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great program if I'm looking at it from his perspective, and I'd for sure want to go there. So
even bringing up Joe Burrow, I mean, these past couple of years, they've had some studs at quarterback. And, I mean, it's looking like Underwood wants to be that next one up.
yeah. And then let's go back to the 2024 class where Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and then surprisingly Louisville with head coach Jeff Brom now back in there. He has taken this, he's kind of a recruiting whiz kid right here. He's taken a bunch of recruits and taken them into the Louisville program. Not one of the top FBS schools, but still in the mix there. And they'll probably be in the mix for years to come now with his recruiting mind, as well as Texas A&M and Ole Miss headlining that with Ole Miss, I believe, picking up Walter Nolan, the top D lineman in the class and one of the top recruits overall for this transfer portal. Huge pickup for both for Ole Miss right there.
Yeah, massive pickup. I mean, that'll put a stud on their D line. They could be dangerous next year.
They could, and with Alabama now kind of decreasing down, I think Georgia and Ole Miss will be vying for that top spot in the SEC.
And I mean, 12 teams in the playoffs. Anything can happen. It's
Especially.
anyone's game.
Yes.
Top 12. Got that shot at the national championship.
SEC is now completely shaken up. And do you want to run through some of the more top transfers?
Yeah, I mean, Caleb Downs, obviously, Bama to Georgia.
Yeah, that's where they project him to go.
Yeah, offensive tackle Caden Proctor from Bama to Iowa now.
Huge surprise there. Iowa is known for kind of developing their tight ends, linebackers. Not sure about offensive tackles, but he was a true freshman All-American that started every game for Alabama. So it's really hard for them to see him go.
Yeah, Evan Stewart, a $1 million NIL player. He's going to Oregon.
Yeah, and that is the reason maybe why some of these players are transferring. It is new coaching staff, like the case at Alabama, but it is also money. I mean, Caleb Downs himself, he's valued at over a $500,000 valuation. I'm sure that'll keep climbing. He's projected to go to Georgia, but we'll see if that's where he actually goes. I'm sure he also has offers from Ohio State, many other places as well. So money's the driving factor in this day and age.
Yeah, and speaking of Ohio State, Quishon Judkins, he's going from Ole Miss straight to Ohio State. It's a really good running back to add to their core.
Another good running back, Trevor Etienne, going from Florida to University of Georgia. That's Travis Etienne's brother. Runs well in the family.
Good running back family there. They've produced some studs out there.
And now let's just do a speed round. So many quarterbacks. This is kind of the juicy part where all the quarterbacks are transferring. So we got Aiden Childs going from Oregon State to Michigan State. TJ Ugalele going from Oregon State to Florida State. Dante Moore going from UCLA to Oregon. And he'll be competing with Dylan Gabriel, who went from Oklahoma to Oregon as well.
Yeah, and then I'll pick it up where you are. Cam Ward from Washington State to Miami. They got Will Howard from Kansas State to Ohio State. They needed a quarterback, and they filled that spot real quick.
Kyle McCord getting demoted from Ohio State to Syracuse.
Yeah.
The fact that he couldn't do more, beat Michigan with Maserati Marv at his side, time for him to go, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they cut him loose probably right after that game.
Yeah.
He had weapons and couldn't get it done.
Failed to use them.
Riley Leonard from Duke going on to Notre Dame.
Yes, and then
That's a big
this one
name.
hits home right here. Will Rogers expected to transfer out of Washington. I myself is a big Mississippi State fan, and so I was saddened to see him go to Washington, but now it looks like he's getting out of Washington as DeBoer is leaving.
Yeah.
And then we'll just hit on the coaching carousel real quick here. Besides Kalen DeBoer, which is the big news, Jed Fish will be taking the spot of Washington. He was formerly the head coach at Arizona, and now he'll be going there. And then a lot of questions surrounding Michigan's situation, as we're sure
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh might leave. So what do you think is going to happen there?
There's Sharon Moore. He's probably my top of my list right there. And there's also Brian Kelly. Those are my two top guys that I could see filling in for Harbaugh. But they've got a lot of options out there.
Yeah, Sharon Moore is actually my top pick, too. He will be within that program already. He's the offensive coordinator currently.
Yeah.
He actually already did coach a few games for Michigan during Harbaugh's suspension earlier in the season. So he's used to this team. I think he'd be the good pick. Brian Kelly is also another rumor, but I think this is just untrue because he's doing really well at LSU right now. Got a great class coming up. So, yeah, I think it's unlikely. And then with that being said, we'll do another coaching carousel coming up with the NFL, while we also give our takes in the NFL playoffs and Super Bowl predictions. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Bulldog Blitz, where we'll now talk about the news that's gripping the world right now, which is the NFL and the NFL playoffs. NFL wildcard round has just finished, and we're here to recap all those games, then give our predictions for who will go on and win the divisional round, and then Super Bowl. So let's start here. First game was Texans versus Browns, where Texans absolutely blew out 37-year-old Joe Flacco. CJ Stroud, what a player.
I mean, that shocked me. I had my polls out. I had the Browns taking it. I had the veteran, Joe Flacco, coming in, winning this playoff game. I didn't think he was going to go far, but I didn't expect the rookie to do this.
Yeah, me too, to be honest. It was the Browns defense that did it for me.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to completely stop CJ Stroud, go away to Texans Arena, NRG Stadium, and kind of give him a wake-up call that, hey, you're a rookie, but you're not good enough to be at this level, but I guess he is.
Yeah, and a tilting point, too, is C.J. Stroud without Tank Dell.
Yeah, that's going to be a big issue now. He looked heavily to Nico Collins during that game,
Yeah.
which we saw.
Nico Collins, I want to say, I think it was above $130 on those yards.
Yeah, it was a career game for him, and so we can just see how he blends so well with these players, and that's part of what makes him great. You know, he said something how he doesn't take tests, he takes football games, something like that. I forget, but
Something like that. But we'll move on to the Chiefs-Dolphins here. I mean, freezing cold game. I think everyone had the Chiefs in this one.
yeah. And then Tua just missed the mark here completely, showing why he's kind of a fraudulent quarterback carried by Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Had the opportunities there, especially in the last drive of the game, fourth quarter, and what does he do? He goes and turns it over.
Yeah, I mean, there's a stat line. I think the Dolphins have won one game in under 30-degree weather.
Yeah, you know, they can't beat good teams, especially in
Yeah.
cold weather like that.
I mean, you subtract 60 degrees from that, and then you get the Dolphins out of Florida. They've just kind of been the teams that will beat the bad teams. And they couldn't produce.
Yeah, they can't be good teams. That's kind of been the story all year for them. And I
Yeah.
think another team that's exactly like the Dolphins is the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
48-32 loss, with most of those points coming in garbage time, to be honest.
Yeah.
Dak and Tua both just completely missed the mark here. Dak as well, kind of just showing some fraudulence here. 2 interceptions in the first half, not a great showing from him when it's been great all season.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back at our previous Bulldog Blitz episode, we had them losing the Philadelphia Eagles. They kind of had the upset in that game with the big win, and they were kind of on a really good hot streak so far. And then Jordan Love.
Yeah, wow. Along with CJ Stroud, they almost had identical statistics. 16 for 21, 274 yards Stroud had. Love had 272, so very close there. Both had a 157.2 QB rating exactly, which is incredible, and they both obviously pulled out the dub.
Yeah, big first playoff wins for both. And honestly, as a Bears fan, I had to say it too. That's a great win for Jordan Love.
I'm quite jealous.
I am too. I mean, to get a first-year quarterback like Jordan Love, I mean, he's been mentored a couple seasons under Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, he came out and he produced.
Yeah, it's just frustrating how they can just continue such a legacy line of quarterbacks at Green Bay, going from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to then Jordan Love, who's living up to expectations and actually probably overachieving right now.
Oh, 100%.
And then speaking of overachieving, that's not what Mike McCarthy is doing at all. He's probably underachieving.
No.
You know, it's really frustrating how I don't think Jerry Jones should have kept him, and he decided to keep him now.
I think it was a bold choice. They really need a change down there in Dallas, and the rumor was if McCarthy's gone, Dak is gone. So that means both of them are staying.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the answer.
You know, Dan Orlovsky said how Todd Bowles, Eberflus with his situation, all these guys, Dan Campbell, even Matt LaFleur when this was supposed to be a rebuild season, Sean McVay as well, all these guys overachieved. Not Mike McCarthy, he underachieved along with Arthur Smith. And what was Arthur Smith? Well, he was fired by Arthur Blank.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Jerry Jones should have this faith in McCarthy. We'll see. I think McCarthy won it in his 5th year, the Super Bowl with the Packers. And this is his 5th year coming up, so maybe Jerry Jones is thinking that. But I really think they should have gone with a change in coaches right here.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I want to talk about an overachiever. Another day, another rookie record set for Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
I mean, sadly, they came out with a loss 24-23. Big win for the Lions, though. I mean, first playoff win I've been alive for.
Yeah, me too. 1992 was their first time they
Yeah.
reached the NFC Championship. And so we'll see if they go that far this time. But I think with their schedule coming up, possible teams they could be playing, I think it's definitely possible.
100%. And I mean, talking about some bad teams playing, we'll get the Bills and the Steelers. Mm-hmm. That's a cakewalk for the Bills there. I was honestly surprised that the Steelers got to 17.
Yeah, not much to talk about there. Just
No.
cruise control for Bills. But then let's move on to the Bucs Eagles. A lot of stuff I want to talk about there. 32-9.
Yeah, I mean, me as well. I thought it was a cakewalk for the Eagles. I mean, Bucs win one of the worst divisions in football. The worst division in football.
Mm-hmm.
Baker Mayfield's coming in off of pretty decent season. I mean, nothing too great, but then he comes out and he proves his point.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay needs a guy, and Baker's the guy. He went 22 for 36, 337 pass yards, and 3 touchdowns with no interceptions.
And let me throw this name out here. Dave Canales, former quarterback coach at Seattle last year. And who was his quarterback? Geno Smith, who had this breakout year.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's the offensive coordinator at Tampa Bay. And what happens to Baker Mayfield? He just proves who he really is. Dave Canales should really be credited here with turning both of these quarterbacks' careers around.
Yeah, there's a great video of him and Dave Canal. He's squirting some water, sprays Dave Canal. There's a great connection sparking up there in Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm. And it's like Baker's getting really comfortable with his receivers. He had 9 different receivers in that game. And that's a really wide margin for Baker.
Crazy, yeah. Trey Palmer, I know, is one of them. Always tweets he's pissed off before the game, and then he goes and scores a touchdown.
Yeah, big 56-yarder for him today.
And now let's move on to the coaching carousel. I think Jim Harbaugh, big name, having everyone's list, but I think the Chargers will land him.
I mean, I think so as well. He's probably the best fit. They got a guy like Justin Herbert there. They need a different coach, and they need a guy like Harbaugh.
I agree. And then there's also some other names being thrown around as well. Vrabel, Belichick. I think for me, Belichick lands in Atlanta.
I think so as well. I think it's actually a really good fit for him. He's got some star players. He's got Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts. Depending on what the Bears do, people are thinking if Bears don't keep Fields, he's going right to Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the dream situation for Bill Belichick.
Yeah, and then some other vacancies are with the Commanders and the Panthers. Panthers, I don't know. That's probably last on the list for all coaches right now.
Yeah.
Horrible situation there, but for Commanders, I'm going to throw out Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator for the Lions, currently still in the playoffs. He's been a complete mastermind for their offense, so I think he might go there after the season.
Yeah, and Cliff Kingsbury is a guy for the Bears here.
Yeah.
It's what everyone's talking about, and obviously it makes it really obvious that if the Bears go Kingsbury, Bears go Caleb.
Yeah, for sure, and I think for me, Eberflus never had a situation where he was choosing his quarterback. He always was thrust in the situation with Fields, never got to have this quarterback from day one, and so this might be a good thing if signs to change. If they get Kingsbury, he'll be able to pick his own quarterback in Caleb Williams. So I think things are looking up right now. And then also there's the other rookie deal thing where they got extra money to spend on people if they get with Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Leave Fields in the dust there, and they can go and get, sure they won't be able to get Marvin Harrison in the draft, but who they can get? T. Higgins, Mike Evans, both those guys are free agents.
Yeah.
So it's just something to think about.
Yeah, and Romo Dusney, he's been a really good option out of Washington. And but don't be surprised if the Bears go with a different guy.
Just watch out. You never know.
Never know who's going.
Well, that'll conclude this episode of Bulldog Blitz. Certainly some spicy takes going on regarding Caleb Williams' future, quarterback situation, Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. So we look forward to shooting many more episodes to come, more pressing topics in the future, and high school hoops. Looking forward to talking about that more. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.